In our last video, we talked about the skeletal muscle pump, which is the mechanism by which pressure is increased in the legs to move blood superiorly up into the abdominal cavity. Now, once we're in the abdominal cavity, we don't have the skeletal muscles of the legs to squeeze on the veins to create that pressure gradient. But we do have this huge, broad skeletal muscle known as the diaphragm that we see in red right here. Above the diaphragm is the thoracic cavity. Below the diaphragm is the abdominal cavity. So abdominal cavity would run between the diaphragm and the waist right here. Running superiorly up the abdominal cavity is the inferior vena cava, which perforates the diaphragm and continues on into the heart. So we have the inferior vena cava below the diaphragm, and we also have a portion of the inferior vena cava superior to the diaphragm. During exhalation, the diaphragm is relaxed, and in the relaxed state, the diaphragm is convex. It decreases the volume of the thoracic cavity. During inhalation, the diaphragm contracts and shortens, and understanding that it shortens is not particularly important for this lecture. We'll discuss that in more detail when we get to the respiratory system. But please understand that during inhalation, it's increasing the volume of the thoracic cavity. One thing I haven't shown in this image is the lungs would actually be expanded as well, increasing the volume of the lungs. But during inhalation, it increases the volume of the thoracic cavity. Notice here is the volume of the thoracic cavity during exhalation. It increases during inhalation, and that's all the result of the contraction of the diaphragm, which moves down. During inhalation, the volume of the abdominal cavity during inhalation decreases, which increases the pressure in the abdominal cavity, squeezing on the inferior vena cava. Squeezing on the inferior vena cava increases the pressure within that vessel and pushes blood superiorly up above the diaphragm. Now, once the blood is above the diaphragm, during exhalation, which looks like this, the volume of the thoracic cavity gets smaller, pressure increases, squeezes on the inferior vena cava within the thoracic cavity, decreasing the volume of the inferior vena cava, increasing pressure within the inferior vena cava, pushing that directly into the heart. That is the respiratory pump.